Welcome to Land of the Bible. I'm your host, David Sussman. Today, we embark on a very special journey, one that takes us deep into the heart of our faith, our history, and our very identity as a people, as we focus on the women of the Bible. The Bible is often told through the stories of great men, Abraham, Moses, David, Isaiah. But if we listen carefully, we hear another voice, a powerful voice, the voice of women. Women who shaped our destiny, who led with courage, who prayed with broken hearts, and who taught us what true faith looks like. In this episode, we will highlight 5 extraordinary women: Sarah, Deborah, Chana, Ruth, and Esther. 5 women whose voices still echo across the ages. Each one lived in a different world, faced different challenges, and yet left us with a legacy of faith, strength, and hope. Let's now join Lori Cardoza-Moore to discover how their stories are not just ancient history, they are living lessons for us today.
Hi, I'm Lori Cardoza-Moore, and today we're going to talk about 5 women of the Bible who influenced the nation of Israel. Women like Sarah and Hannah, Deborah, Esther, and Ruth. We're going to start with Sarah, who was the matriarch of Israel. She believed in the promise that God made to her husband Abram when he told Abram in Genesis 12, 1 through 3, that I will bless you, bless those who bless you, and curse him who curses you. And all the nations of the world shall bless themselves by you. In Genesis chapter 18, starting in verse 10, the Lord said, "Where is your wife Sarah?" "There in the tent," he replied. Then one of them said, "I will return to you this time next year, and your wife Sarah will have a son." Sarah was listening at the opening of the tent behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already old, advanced in years, and the way of woman no longer visited Sarah. But Sarah had the faith to believe. She knew that there was a covenant promise made to her husband and to her, and so she believed God. God calls Abram and Sarai from Ur to Canaan, promises land, descendants, and blessing. Long delay tests their faith. The promised son, Isaac, arrives miraculously. Sarah had amazing faith. She believed that God was going to bless and honor the promise that he had given to Abraham and to Sarah. Unfortunately, because she took matters into her own hands, for whatever reason, she had doubts about how God was going to fulfill this promise. Sarah believed in the promise God gave to her husband Abraham and to her. Eventually, Isaac was born. Therefore, Sarah became the mother of the covenant of the promise that was made to her, to Abraham, and to their descendants forever. Sometimes we as women also find ourselves in situations where we feel like God gave us a word, but He seems to be long in fulfilling that promise that He made to us, or that vision, or that dream. And the story of Sarah tells us that if we will be patient, if God made a promise, if He made a covenant like He did to Israel, just like here we are in the nation of Israel, if God made a promise, He's going to fulfill it. And we can count on that. And as women of faith, we too, like Sarah, need to hang tightly to those promises. If God made a promise or gave you a vision or a dream of something that He wanted to fulfill through you, if we will wait patiently, continue to pray, and on His timing, He will fulfill and bring to fruition that promise He gave to you. Just as God made the promise to Israel, we are standing here in this land today as a fulfillment of what He promised to Sarah.
Imagine walking where Jesus walked, where faith comes to life. Feel the Bible story unfold around you, from the green Galilee to Jerusalem's ancient streets. Experience the serene and welcoming land of the Bible, where miracles happen. Put your heart where His footsteps are. Visit Israel.
The next woman we're going to focus on in the Bible is Deborah. And I want to read to you from the scriptures of Judges chapter 4 and verse 5. Deborah was a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth. She was judging Israel at that time. She sat beneath Deborah's palm between Ramah and Beth-el in the Ephraim hills. The Israelites would go up to her for judgment. One day, she summoned Barak, son of Abinoam, from Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, "The Lord God of Israel has commanded, go, take 10,000 men of the people of Naphtali and Zebulun, and lead them to Mount Tabor." Deborah was a prophetess. She also had tremendous faith as a woman. She called Barak to war against the enemies of Israel. At that time, there were no male leaders. It was she. She was leading the nation of Israel. She was the judge. People would come to her asking for her wisdom and her guidance in decision making. But she was the one who encouraged Barak to go to war. She knew that if they would go to war at that moment, at that time, that they would have victory. God raised Deborah up to be a prophetess to Israel, where people sought her guidance and her wisdom to lead. God may have given you also a special, unique mission, a message for you to fulfill in your life. If you too will pray and have faith like Deborah, God will fulfill that covenant, that promise He made to you. And now we're in a very special place in the city of Shilo, the ancient city, the very place where Hannah prayed her prayer. So as you see behind me is Hannah's prayer. We are right here in Shilo, the very place where Hannah prayed this prayer. And you all probably recall the story that Elkanah had two wives, Peninnah and Hannah. And Peninnah was able to get pregnant, but Hannah was not. And this grieved Hannah. Hannah was praying, and she was praying silently from her heart, from the depth of her heart. And the high priest came up to her and thought she was drunk. And she said, "No, my Lord." And she shared the story of what happened. Well, Hannah's prayer has impacted a lot of women. Me personally, years ago, when I was still young, had not given my life to serve God, not yet. I was having surgery done, and 2 doctors, after the surgery was completed, informed me that I would not be able to get pregnant. And this was one of the things that I wanted. I desired to have a large family. And I prayed. I remember when they walked out of the hospital room that day, I bowed my head. I didn't even know Hannah's prayer existed. I had never read the Bible at this time. But from the depth of my heart, I cried out to God, just he and I, in that hospital room that day, and asked him, please, if you would give me even one child, I promise I will raise that child to know you. Well, as God would have it, he answered my prayer, just like he answered Hannah's. And he gave to us, my husband and I, 5 children, which I'm blessed to have today. So for those of you who feel like, you're trying to get pregnant, you want to have a child, it's a very simple prayer that women have prayed throughout the ages, and God has honored that prayer. And Hannah prayed and said, my heart rejoices in the Lord. My horn is exalted in the Lord. I will speak out against my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation. There is none as holy as the Lord, for there is none besides you, neither is there any rock like our God. Do not speak so high and mighty, nor speak arrogantly, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, and his is the measure of all deeds. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they who stumbled are girded with strength. The sated have hired themselves for bread, and they who were hungry have ceased. While the barren woman has borne 7, and she that has many children has become wretched. The Lord kills and gives life. He brings down to the grave and brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and raises up. He raises up the poor out of the dust and lifts up the beggar from the dunghill, to set them among princes and make the throne of glory their inheritance. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he sets the world upon them. He guards the path of his pious ones, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For it is not by strength that man prevails. The Lord will destroy his adversaries. Out of heaven shall he thunder against them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength to his king, and exalt the horn of his anointed. 1 Samuel 2, verses 1 through 10. Now I want to share with you the story of Ruth, an amazing story of a woman who dedicated her life to serving her mother, Naomi. For word had reached her in the land of Moab that the Lord had brought his people to mind and granted them bread. So she left the place where she had been, both of her daughters-in-law with her, and set off along the way back to the land of Yehudah. But to her 2 daughters-in-law she said, go now, turn back, each to your mother's home, and may the Lord show you that kindness that you have shown the dead and me. Then Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clung to her, and Naomi said, Your sister-in-law has turned back to her people, to her gods. Turn back after your sister-in-law." But Ruth replied, "Do not entreat me to leave you, to turn back, nor to walk after you. For wherever you walk, I shall walk, and wherever you stay, there I stay. Your people is my people, your God is my God. Wherever you die, there I die, and there shall I be buried. So may the Lord do to me, and more, for death alone will separate me from you." Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to come with her, and she spoke to her no more. Ruth said to her mother-in-law that she would not depart from her, that wherever she went, that Ruth would go, and let nothing but death depart both of them. The significance of the two daughters-in-law are reflective of the church and Christianity today. We have one group of people, like Orpah, who left Israel and do not see the significance or the importance of standing with Israel in her hour of greatest need. But then we have those who are like Ruth, who have committed their lives to serving the Jewish people, to defending the state of Israel, and have even committed so much so that they too cite, "Let nothing but death part you and I." The final story of the woman in the Bible that I want to share with you is Esther. It's a story of God's providence with his people Israel, even though his name is never mentioned in the book. This is chapter 4 and verse 1. Mordecai understood all that had happened, and he tore his clothes and dressed himself in sackcloth and ashes. And he walked out to the middle of the town, crying out a loud and bitter cry. He came as far as the entrance to the king's gate, for no one may enter the king's gate dressed in sackcloth. And in every single province, wherever the king's word and law extended, deep mourning prevailed among the Jews, fasting and weeping and grief. The multitudes lay down upon sackcloth and ashes. Esther's young maids and her eunuchs came and told her of this, and the queen's whole body shook. She sent clothes for Mordecai to put on to lay aside the sackcloth he was wearing, but he would not accept them. So Esther called Haddock, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to her, and instructed him to go and speak to Mordecai to find out what all this was and why. Haddock went out to Mordecai to the town square before the king's gate, and Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and all about the silver that Haman had promised to have weighed out to the king's treasury in return for the right to destroy the Jews. And he gave him the text of the decree that had been issued in Shushan to annihilate them, telling him to show it to Esther and to speak to her, instructing her strictly to go to the king and plead with him, to implore him to help her people. Haddock came and told Esther what Mordecai had said, and Esther told Haddock, instructing him to repeat her words to Mordecai. All the king's courtiers and all the people of his provinces know that there is only one law for any man or woman who comes before the king into the inner courtyard without being called, to be killed, unless that is, the king extends the golden scepter toward him so that he may live on. As for me, I have not been called to come before the king these 30 days past. And they told Mordecai what Esther had said. Mordecai sent back his reply to Esther, "Do not imagine that you can escape to the king's palace from the fate of all the Jews. For if you keep your silence at this time, relief and salvation will come forth for the Jews from some other place, but you and your father's house will be lost forever. And who can say, could it not be for just such a time as this that you came into royalty?" Esther found herself in a very difficult predicament because she knew the rules of the palace. She knew the king's rules, that she could not come before him unless she was invited. But her uncle reminded her, "Who knows that you have been raised up for such a time as this, that deliverance will come for the Jews from some place, but she and her family would perish if they did not." She had a choice to make, and she chose to stand with her Jewish brethren throughout the land. So too, we find ourselves in a very similar circumstance right now in the world, where Israel is fighting the Persian enemy, the Amalek of our generation, the religious leaders of Iran. We, as Christians, should be standing with our Jewish brethren at this hour. We should be communicating to our leader, our president, why we must continue to stand with Israel, why we must remove Hamas from Gaza. We have to stand because, as Uncle Mordecai told Esther, we're going to be judged. Deliverance will come for our Jewish brethren, for the state of Israel from someplace. But how do you not know that you too were brought into the world to defend Israel for such a time as this?
I will bless those who bless you, God promised Abraham. Embrace this covenant by connecting with the people of Israel. From Jerusalem's stones to Galilee's shores, experience living faith through their traditions and hospitality. Your journey is more than visiting biblical sites. It's about hearts that welcome your friendship. Your presence matters. Discover Israel.
My name is Laurie Cardoza Moore. I'm the president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, a nonprofit organization dedicated to educating Christians about our biblical responsibility to stand with Israel and the Jewish people. We accomplish our goal by producing award-winning documentary films and television programs like Focus on Israel to educate Christians around the globe to stand. So 9/11 changed a lot of our lives. It changed mine. And I realized when we were hit, those planes flew into the Twin Towers, that Amalek had come to our shores. Now, we had never experienced any horrific terrorist attack like what happened on that day. But it connected me to what Israel was facing. At that time, there was the Second Intifada. There were buses being blown up. There were Jews being murdered, innocent Jews being murdered in their country. And I saw this as an opportunity to try to educate Christians, because Christians were not being taught. This was not a topic that was addressed from the pulpit. So it's the reason why we're producing these documentary films and television programs, to get this message out to Christians at a critical time in history, when we see even Christian influencers who are conservatives, who are pushing a false narrative about Israel, who are accusing Israel even today of blood libels. It's hard to imagine that we would even hear medieval blood libels coming back from people who profess to be Christians. This is why, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing is so critically important. If we don't speak up, if the church doesn't speak up, just like with Esther had an opportunity to speak up to go before the king, to plead with the king about what was happening to her people, what Haman was intending to do to her people. We are facing a very similar time in our lifetime in history, where we are facing the enemy of Iran, who is trying to annihilate the Jewish state, the state of Israel, our Jewish brethren. There's moral confusion about this issue. And who should we, the church, who should Christians be standing with? That's why what we're doing is so critically important. And I invite all of you to join us in this amazing mission. It's a holy mission to speak out on our Jewish brethren's behalf. Look at Ruth. And Ruth, she could have gone back to her family. She could have gone back to her country. She could have gone back to her God. But she knew there was something unique about her mother-in-law. She believed in her mother-in-law. She believed in Israel's God. And she chose to commit her life, dedicate her life to serving her mother. We too should look at our Jewish brethren in our communities, and we too should commit to defend them and to protect them. And we should commit to them. Let nothing but death part you and I.
Join me next week on Land of the Bible as we journey through the deserts, follow the spice trail, and uncover the secrets of the Nabateans, a people who turned a barren land into a kingdom of ingenuity and culture. Thank you for watching. Make sure to join us next time as we continue to connect you to the people, places, and land of the Bible.